All right, fellas, here's your commissioner with this week's updates. We do have the new power rankings on the league page. Um, Dolan has moved up 4 spots in the power rankings. He's the biggest mover up, and myself has moved down 3 spots, the biggest dropper there. All right, so let's start with the matchups here. At the start, we have my team versus Michael. Michael had 123. My team only put up 88. My team had 3 players with double digits. Jerick McKinnon played pretty well for me. Golden Tate continues to suck. I've read many places people say I should go ahead and drop him. I own him in a couple leagues. Just hoping he can eventually turn it around. Lamar Miller is still doing pretty well for me. But he's yet to score a touchdown on the season, so he's getting me double-digit points every week, but just can't quite find the end zone yet. And I did have John Brown on my bench, and he did put up 19 points. And, of course, I played the wrong quarterback again. Not that it made a big difference, but can't win with Stafford and Palmer for whatever reason. Michael had 7 players with double digits. Every running back that he played this week, two normal running backs. He played one in the flex. All of them had double figures. Steve Smith put up 21 points for him. Ezekiel Elliott had 22 points, and a good portion of Michael's team was on that he had on his bench was on bye week this week. So he's getting a lot of that out of the way, and still was able to pull out the win pretty easily. Moving on, we have Philip with 133 and George with 73. George had Blake Bortles with 26 points. He also had 4 players on his team combined for a total of 1.3 points. DeAndre Hopkins had 1 point for him. Obviously, he's not a droppable type player. Just crazy week for him, I guess. Deshaun Jackson had a point. Probably the number 1 drafted kicker, Gostkowski, had -1 for him. Mike Tolbert only put up 0.4 points for him. Not really sure why you would play Mike Tolbert. Of course, he might get some goal line carries, but he doesn't get a lot of work. Even with Jonathan Stewart out, Panthers are going with Cameron Artis-Payne and Fozzie Whitaker a good bit. I know Fozzie Whitaker had a decent week this past week. I believe he had 98 receiving yards. Moving on to Philip's team. Philip had 4 players with double digits. Obviously, he had Julio Jones on his team, so he had the star of the week. Julio put up 42 points. I actually own him in my other 2 leagues, so it was a good week for him. He also had Russell Wilson give 24 points. Now, what makes that play kind of unique in this situation is George's team actually drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round and recently dropped him. Not really sure why you drop your 3rd round pick, but so that obviously Philip used him against them and was able to get some good production there. Philip also had Will Fuller on the bench, who had 24 points. He had a receiving touchdown and I believe a punt return touchdown as well. Moving on, we have Garrett versus Shane. This was really the only close matchup of the week. Garrett had 116, Shane had 108. Garrett's team had 6 players in double digits. DeMarco Murray had 25 points. And I believe I mentioned it last week. Murray is looking really good this year. A lot of people thought Derrick Henry would be splitting time with him, get more carries, but Murray's really produced well, and as long as he keeps producing like that, Derrick Henry's not going to find the field very much. He also had the Broncos defense get him 16 points. Obviously, they're one of the better defenses in the league, for fantasy and in real life. And he did have Derek Carr on the bench, who racked up 24 points. On Shane's team, he had 6 players in double digits as well. Le'Veon Bell got him 20 points. It's his first game back from suspension this year. So he'll probably be producing quite a bit of those throughout the season. He also had Greg Olsen that had 19 points for him. One of the more solid tight ends that you can have on your team. There hasn't been very many solid ones this year, so good production out of him there. Next matchup we have is Dalton versus David. Dalton had 127. David had 68. A low score for the week. David had Melvin Gordon put up 21 points for him. Outside of that, his team was just absolutely horrible. Odell Beckham and Julian Edelman combined for 6 points for him. Obviously, Beckham has really struggled for the good portion of this year. Part of me thinks he's a little bit overrated. I did have, in one of my leagues, had to decide between drafting Odell Beckham or Julio Jones, and I went with Jones, and obviously that's really paid off for me so far this year. Edelman is playing with the third-string quarterback there in New England, Jacoby Brissett. So with Tom Brady coming back, you can probably expect his numbers to drastically increase, as he is one of the favorite targets there for Brady. On Dalton's team, Dalton had 6 players in double digits. He had Mark Ingram put up 20 points. Matt Jones had 21 points. I believe that was probably one of his first big games of the season for Jones. And Frank Gore with 18 points. A lot of people sleep on Frank Gore because of his age and everything, but man, he's still steady, man. He's steady, giving good production week in and week out. Moving on to Dakota and Ray. Dakota had 154, top scorer again this week. He's done that quite a bit. And Ray with 104. Ray had 5 players with double-digit points. He had Jordan Howard, the new running back in Chicago, gave him 15 points. Pretty good there. Marvin Jones gave him 10 points this week. So he kind of falls back down to earth after his huge week last week. Obviously, Marvin Jones is, I don't care what the depth chart says, but he's the number 1 receiver in Detroit. And, as long as Stafford can, put up some numbers, unlike he did this past week, Marvin Jones is likely going to thrive week in and week out in that offense. Jimmy Graham gave him 14 points. Demaryius Thomas gave him 18 points. One smart play out of him was he had Jamal Charles on the bench. I know a lot of people that would have had him, they're going to be real excited. He's back, want to throw him in the lineup. He kind of held off on that, and Charles only put up 0.3 points, so very smart play there. And Ray has the team with Tom Brady on it, so he will get an added player that can be a big benefit to him there, whether it's for trade purposes or putting him in the lineup. He also has Drew Brees, so he might be in one of those quarterback struggles I find myself in week week out. Who do I play? Something I recommend trying to avoid. Let's see. Dakota had 8 players in double digits this week, led by Matt Ryan with 36. Obviously, throwing 500 yards get you a lot of fantasy points for us. He did have Brandon Marshall on the bench with 17 points. So, if he throws him in, he scores even more points. Like I said, he led the league in scoring this week. His team is pretty nice. I mean, his team's been, obviously he's undefeated. His team's been doing very well this year. I don't know if his team is going to keep up that kind of production. I mean, he does have a very good receiving core, but his running backs are kind of lackluster in my opinion. So we'll see if he can keep it up. Hopefully somebody can take him out. He's beaten most people he's faced, and he's faced some of the better teams, I believe, as well. So we'll see how it goes. Moving on, we have Ray Sr. versus Joseph. Ray Sr. had 152, Joseph 102. Ray Sr. had 7 players with double digits, led by Roethlisberger with 34 points. He had Emmanuel Sanders with 19 points, Jordan Reed with 24 points. So a big game out of the tight end there in Washington. And Isaiah Crowell put up 22 points as well. So it's been a little bit of a bright spot there for the Browns offense. Outside of him and Terrell Pryor, not much going on there in Cleveland. Joseph had 7 players with double digits. Matt Forte gave him just 5.3 points. He's been playing very well this year, but they did have a very tough matchup with the Seahawks there, so not surprised to kind of see him a little bit held in check. He had Michael Crabtree give him 30 points, so nice play there, and he also had Robert Woods with 12 points. Not sure how many people would have really played Robert Woods in their lineup, but he did give you some decent production there. As far as the best and worst plays of the week, I have here that Joseph had the best play of the week playing Michael Crabtree. He's usually maybe in my mind, a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. I can see, depending on your team, not playing him. I do know a couple people that have him in different leagues and didn't play him this past week, but solid play there out of him. As far as the worst plays, I'm just going to mention a couple here. I have Michael played Julius Thomas. He got 0 points. I believe he was marked out for the game. Obviously, he still whooped my ass with getting 0 points out of the tight end, which is the second week I've faced somebody that had 0 points out of tight end and I still lost. But we got to make sure we pay attention to injury report. Try to get him out of your lineup if you can. I know the way our waivers work, if you don't have a backup tight end, it is a little difficult if it's a last-minute decision by the team. We also had the Panthers defense get him -1. I would say George playing Mike Tolbert, getting 0.4. It's just, in my opinion, just a horrible play. I don't see why you would put Mike Tolbert in your lineup there. Outside of that, Joseph had Gronk in the lineup, got 1.6. I mean, if you draft a Gronk, you're going to play him regardless. It just kind of sucks he hasn't really got it going, but that'll likely change with Brady coming back. That's all I got for you guys this week. Best of luck moving forward. I don't believe anything crazy happened on the waiver wire. I know I didn't get James White. I got outbid by a couple dollars there, but I'll have to take a look at that. But good luck this week. Let's see if we can get some trades going. I don't believe any trades have gone through in the league, so maybe we can get something moving on. All right, see ya.